When we talk about direct democracy, it's helpful to define it in contrast to another form of democracy, representative democracy. Representative democracy is the predominant system in the UK and many other uh, democratic systems worldwide in the contemporary environment. And when we talk about representative democracy, what we basically mean is that we elect people who then govern, take decisions, do things on our behalf. They don't check back with us for everything they want to do. They get on and govern. They may have put forward some kind of program before putting themselves forward for election to give us an idea of what they're going to do when they get in. But basically, once they're in, for so long as their term runs, they make their own decisions. And at the end of that term, we decide whether we want to vote for them again or get different people in because we didn't like what they did. And then the process starts all over again. Those new people or the same people have got another term of office, elected by us, they're accountable to us, they tell us what's going on, we can scrutinise them, we can form opinions on them, but again, they're governing on our behalf, they're doing it for us, and we get to make up our mind at the election after that. That's the basic system of representative democracy. We can contrast that with, subject to this talk, direct democracy, and the principle line behind that is that the people, the voters, the public, whatever we want to call them, actually take specific individual decisions. So rather than voting for people and holding people to account who are going to take the decisions on their behalf, take a group of decisions as a kind of a program which we look at, we judge what we think of the delivery of that program at the end of the period. Rather than doing it like that, the public are actually taking specific decisions through voting on propositions put before them. That's the big difference. And when we think about direct democracy, sometimes it's conceived as, certainly by its advocates, as a purer form of democracy, that the kind of barriers, the intermediaries between us as the people who are supposed to be in charge and decisions for the whole of society are removed, that the people are directly in contact with the decision, hence the term direct. So for advocates, that's good from a democratic point of view. And it's seen as pure democracy, as I say, and sometimes held to be the kind of form of democracy that first emerged, in societies such as ancient Athens, which is often held to be a prototypical democracy, where one of the procedures used was the citizenry, which incidentally was far from being the whole of the population, took decisions directly on behalf of society. So in that kind of a counter democracy, which actually is sometimes disputed, we won't go into that right now, direct democracy was the norm, but over time, later democracies established, shifted to more representative forms on the grounds that in a large developed economy, huge population, you can't have the whole of the people taking all of the decisions all of the time. You need a group of people to whom you delegate power. But over the course of the 20th century, or actually from the late 19th century onwards, while representative democracy was in the ascendant, elections were becoming more important, franchises were expanding, more people were getting the vote, eventually women were getting the vote, eventually the age of which you could vote lowering, you get a larger franchise, more people taking part in representative democracy, electing assemblies and parliaments, things like that, to govern on their behalf. There was also some pressure in the direction of involving the people more directly as well. And there was discussion of this idea in the UK as there was in other countries. In the UK, we looked in particular to the example of Switzerland, which from the mid-19th century onwards was making frequent use of referendums, which are a term we use to apply to exercises in direct democracy. We're looking to Switzerland, also looking to other examples like the use of referendums again in the United States. So in the UK, there was this idea that actually we should also involve the people in making the really big decisions, particularly decisions about constitutional issues such as should we introduce devolution, should we join the European community or leave the European community? Should we change our electoral system? Those kind of issues. Should part of the UK leave the UK, let's say Scotland and Northern Ireland? The idea was that big decisions like that should involve the people directly. It shouldn't just be taken by delegates who represent us. It should be taken by the people, the public, however defined, as a whole. They should be given the final say on a specific proposition, not just on the question of who should govern on our behalf. So that was the argument in the UK in favour of using what we call referendums. However, it took a long while. The debate around that started in the late 19th century. It took a long while before we started using referendums for major decisions. We used them at local level on issues such as should pubs be open on Sundays, but we didn't use them for big issues. However, from 1973 onwards, we've been using them in the United Kingdom. The first one of all in 1973 was held in Northern Ireland on the question of whether or not Northern Ireland should carry on being part of the UK or join with the Republic of Ireland. They voted, there was a boycott by one half of the community anywhere in Northern Ireland. They voted to stay part of the UK. Thereafter, they've been used. There's been some gaps between their use, but they have become an established part of the UK political system, and there have been 13 major referendums to date. And as from 2000, with the passing of the Political Parties Elections and Referendums Act, they've been given a firmer legal footing. So there's a permanent legislative framework governing the way in which they take place, although it leaves lots of questions unanswered about them, but nevertheless it shows that there's a legal recognition these are part of our system. They may not happen all the time, but they are used for some of the big decisions. So referendums are part of the system. Most recent major referendum to be held in the UK, 2016, on whether or not we should continue being part of the European Union or leave the European Union. The vote went in favour of leave. We have duly left the European Union, which shows how important referendums can be. There have been some big decisions made on the back of referendums. And there may yet be more referendums to come, for instance, on whether or not Scotland should become independent, or perhaps another referendum on the possibility of uniting the island of Ireland into a single Republic of Ireland. So referendums are still around as a possibility, and it would be silly to rule out the possibility there'll be more referendums. There's a lot of argument about whether or not referendums in themselves are a good thing or a bad thing. Some people say they're a pure democratic form, that the people should have the final say. Other people say, well, actually, they can be used for purposes of manipulation or populism, that actually consulting with the people directly on things isn't always the best thing to do. And also, there's no consistency about when we should or should not hold a referendum, which means that, again, that they can be manipulated by the political system which they're supposed to bypass. Those arguments aren't going to go away, and they're often caught up with the actual subject the referendum's being held on as well. So I think we can expect referendums to continue to be a factor in political debate, and also arguments about them to continue.